Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Conversations at Cow Corner with Samba and Srinath. Recently, we heard pretty big news hitting the wires of CVC Capital almost closing out a bid of a team in the 100, which is a tournament that happens in the UK around now in the summer. They are currently in the process of figuring out how to sell the 8 franchises that exist in the 100 to investors anywhere in the world. This caught our attention. There is big news in the area for where our podcast thrives in the business, the economics of the sport. So we thought we'll speak about this from the standpoint of why is the 100 right now looking to sell its franchises? When did it start quoting offers? Where did that offer level start? And what has happened through the bunch of months that this process has been going on, leading up to CVC now almost on the verge of buying a franchise? Samba, are you excited about this episode? Give me your thoughts before we get in on the key details.
I'm actually very excited. Again, when I was thinking and researching about this topic, as you know, I'm a very optimistic person. I'm like, oh, 100 is going to be an awesome format. I think it's going to help a lot in terms of grassroots cricket. I think the numbers are looking great. I think a lot of people were talking very positively. I think Richard Good was like going on and about this is the future. It's going to be bigger and better. And then once the research kind of kicked in, and when you put the timeline beautifully, and I think I got a lot more questions than the answers. So I'm like very excited about this topic today, and I think for our listeners and our viewers, it's a topic that actually has a lot of questions in terms of how another white ball format is going to survive or make it big with so many other tournaments going on as well. So yeah, super excited, Sheena. Super excited.
All right. Maybe I'll start us off with why do we think the 100 is looking to sell off the 8 teams that the ECB currently owns? I mean, it's not unnatural for a league to privatize or rather sell its franchises to a bunch of private owners. The IPL started this way. Most of the other leagues started this way too, where initially the bidding on the teams start, and once all of the teams are bought, now the league actually starts. The 100 actually started in a little bit of a different way. The ECB owned all the teams, like in the Big Bash League. Cricket Australia owns all the teams. Now, after 3 years, they started in 2021. It's been 4 years when the tournament has gone on for every summer for a 4-week time frame. 4 years after, they're now looking to sell stakes in those teams. The major reason that they're quoting for selling these teams are they want to strike the iron while it's hot. The amount of money that's been paid for broadcast rights have been constantly going up. It is also the case with the 100. They have a 9-year deal going up to 2028 with Sky, I think,
Yes.
for
Yes,
about
right.
370 million. And the amount of interest is also like increased over the last bunch of years. And they started out in February 9th was the first time we heard about this, where they wanted to sell 30% of each of those teams for a combined valuation of £100 million. That was their target at that point to begin with.
Huge number.
That's a fairly huge number for 30%, which means all the 8 teams put together, if we multiply that by 3.3, 3.5x, that's 400 million for 8 teams, which means that's 50 million pounds for each team. That would beg the question on what the revenue for each of these teams are. We know that the whole bunch of these teams are in the red right now. They actually don't make a whole bunch of money. But then you might ask, like, why 100 million? Where did that number come from? How did ECB set that as the target for it? Digging a little bit deeper, what we found out was a whole bunch of um, the entire county setup that they have upgraded over the last 10 to 15 years their infrastructure by borrowing money. And the amount of interest in county cricket has constantly come down and they have not gotten revenues back. So the 19 counties together today have a debt of about 200 million pounds. Questions were raised as soon as this came out if this was a big debt financing scheme being run by the ECB to be able to, finance half of the debt away, raise this money to enable, I mean, this was going to be spread across all the different counties for them to pay down the debts for all the construction and infrastructure improvements that they have put in place. So that's where this 100 million pounds started.
Yeah, Shriyant, 100 million pounds, again, staggering number. And I think even more staggering is the number that you just mentioned in terms of the counties being under severe pressure of 250 million plus, right? I think they're trying to evaporate half of the debt with this uh, financial scheme. Srinath, does this mean that if this doesn't go through by hook or crook, counties are in a massive danger of even running day-to-day operations, or is it more in the lines of, hey, I will probably still throw a lifeline at you in terms of supporting you from an infrastructure or county standpoint, right? Because my biggest fear, and I think even reports and even a lot of the cricketers and the reporters are saying that county cricket doesn't make ECB a lot of money. It's the rights to international cricket. Cricket is making them a lot of money. County cricket is not the money maker. It's still very important to bring in the right kind of talent, build the whole grassroots cricket. So a lot of questions kind of emerge in terms of, like, yes, it's important, but at what cost, right? I think that is the fundamental kind of a question mark that comes in my head.
Yeah, actually, I mean, don't have a very detailed understanding because it's not available openly, the funding or what the financial state of all of the counties are. But one thing, like, going deep into this topic that I was able to like understand is as when we go through the rest of the timeline here, what we'll figure out is that ECB is really desperate for a big cash injection today. That tells me that the situation for not the biggest counties that are in the big cities, but the smaller town counties might actually be in a whole bunch of danger, even from running day to day operations. I read something about a county that doesn't switch on its lights to save electricity.
My God.
So there are like fairly dire situations for a set of counties in being able to run day-to-day operations. But I mean, to just add on to that, like when they put this out for raising 100 million, the scheme that they laid out was for the counties to own 51%. They were not going to sell that. ECB would own the remaining 49%, out of which they would sell 30% of that to an external investor and hold on to 19% of it. And this news came out on the 9th of Feb. On the 22nd of February, Samba, like literally a week and a half after, there was cold water thrown all over this scheme that was laid out, saying this was an incredibly off-putting plan, that joint venture plan that ECB has laid out, where they're offering only 30%. And if they are actually expecting real investors who own, in this case, IPL investors who own teams in multiple other leagues in the world, they should be a little bit more serious in allowing a higher stake, allowing owners, people who are investing to be able to make more decisions as opposed to being a passive investor owning 30% of a club. So there was a lot of backlash instantly within a week or two on how not well thought out this plan was, and very little interest any big investors had in taking up for this plan.
Srinath, I can't agree more. Like, I think the whole toe footing of ECB, I think ECB clearly wants to, apart from control, also wants to be in a position where they want to kind of appease a lot of people. And the sad part is that the big investors, from a white ball T20 format standpoint or a shorter format standpoint, are all these IPL owners, and they're not going to be interested with a smaller stake for sure. Like, if you want to take an example of Ambani, who owns by New York, MI Cape Town, Mumbai Indians,
I mean, it is
and
looking like a monopoly game for Ambani at this point, like New York, Cape Town, Mumbai, like all the big cities, like the glitzy cities in the world. Like he essentially
yeah,
wants to go around and own all of these. Imagine, like, saying, yeah, you can own a 30% stake of this thing. Wasn't
yeah,
probably the most well thought
absolutely,
out.
yeah,
So this was the 22nd of February when a whole bunch of cold water was thrown over this. As you know, March and April is IPL season. There wasn't, I think, majority of the owners were deep in the IPL. There wasn't a whole bunch of news coming out. At the end of April, right around the time the IPL was closing out, the next big piece of news came out. I think the ECB got the signal that it wasn't putting out the best of offer when it said you can only own 30%. The It starts to get a little bit more bizarre here when what they did after this was they said, okay, we don't want to own the rest of the 19%. We're ready to put that out on the market as well, which means the counties will still own 51%. Anyone else who's ready to invest can own 49%. And initially, they were planning to sell 30% stake in all the teams for raising a total of 100 million. Now they were ready to sell 49% of all the 8 teams. And now their target rose from 100 million to 500 million pounds.
yeah, yeah.
So I don't
This,
know exactly, like, what was smoked between that to this, but basically raising the stakes by, 30 to 49, not even giving full control. Still, it is 49%, but
the 5x it.
5xing the amount that they believe that they're going to get in. Again, didn't make a whole bunch of sense, but I mean, they are running a process. So, from their standpoint, they want to up it as much as possible. So, I mean, I give them credit for wanting to set the bar high, but I think it was like fairly obvious and transparent that, they were putting numbers on a board which they weren't able to back up with any kind of finances of the 100 or anything of that sort.
I don't know which kind of a consulting team or who. Sorry, I actually came up with those numbers. And
Deloitte is working
Deloitte,
on
right?
this.
Yeah, I heard Deloitte was also in the mix in terms of helping them to kind of sell as well. So it's very interesting how numbers kind of all the way from 100 to 500 really didn't make sense. And again, the most important aspect, Srinath, is that you still are talking about 49% of the stake, right? And again, there's a bunch of other terms and conditions that were given to say that, hey, we're going to give the county a little more flexibility to sell more of their stake to any incoming investor, but that's still uh, up there, right? I mean, I'm still very concerned of that 500 million number in terms of the logic and in terms of even let's take, okay, that's 500 million with 8 teams put in together. That's about 62.5 million quid per team,
No,
and I
that's
think
500 million for 50%. So $1 billion for 8 teams,
$1 billion
which is
for
like
8 teams, yeah,
125 million
125,
for
right?
each team.
125 million. That's a lot of money, right? If I'm going to equate that kind of money to a very, very successful league like IPL, which has been running and crushing it every year for the past 16 years, the numbers doesn't really, really tally, right? So
Yeah.
again,
Now, just to
uh,
kind of give you some context there, like Gujarat Titans, which got sold a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, was sold for $750 million. And this is league that has been active for, like you said, 16 years. And the number of like fan following for it is, I mean, let's not even do the 100 a disservice by comparing it. It is, of course, the king of its own time frame. The 100 is like, playing alongside the MLC. So there's a whole lot of things going against it, not to talk about the fact that the Vitality Blast is happening at the same time when the T20, when the 100 is happening. So, yeah, it is mind boggling that, 125 million pounds, which is like close to like 160, 170 million dollars, when Gujarat Titans, after 16 years and that much amount, is selling for 750. This seems like a bit of a stretch. Anyway, all of this said, so this was on the 29th of April. I think all of these IPL owners were trying to get in a little bit more deeper and understand what the appetite for these counties were. Were they willing to sell more of the 49%? What were the terms and conditions of this deal with the ECB? I think a lot of time was spent here. The next biggest update came on the 18th of July, which is almost a couple of months later, when a few of IPL owners or folks from ownership groups of IPL basically came out with fairly scathing comments saying so much of the details are missing and yet the timelines are rather optimistic. And then there was another guy who said the ECB was handling the process incredibly badly with a big lack of clarity and lots of questions remaining. And some of the questions that were listed out here was majority of the counties were pushing to keep full control of cricket operations. There was a lack of clarity from the ECB on the guarantees of availability of the English cricket players. Case in point here is this year when the 100 was happening, England versus West Indies test match overlapped with that, with big guns playing in that test as opposed to playing in the 100, both owned by the ECB. So there's a bit of a head scratcher for all of these clubs that are the guys that are looking to buy it, to say, guys, you guys own both of these. Are you not going to make sure that the best guys are available when we're paying this much? It's not been confirmed. And then, of course, the MLC is happening. Major League Cricket in the US is happening exactly at the same time as this is going on. And the MLC, even though it's got way lesser history, I mean, cricket in England is just much more huge, as compared to cricket in the US. But the MLC, because of the fact that, it's got a whole bunch of Indian owners, is at times 3x more for star players as compared to the 100. Pat Cummins last year ditched the 100 to go play in the MLC. Travis Head ditched the 100 to go play in the MLC. When this is the case, again, like a lot of the stars are going to be not playing here, what are the owners actually buying? Again, a whole bunch of cold water was thrown over this 500 million and 49.51 stake and stuff like this. This is where we're at right now.
Let's put a pin on the number 500 million. Let that probably sit and simmer. But I think the last 3 points that you mentioned, I think that is of so much importance, and I think it's so sad that ECB didn't kind of plan this properly. Okay, let's start talking about the whole schedule as such, right? And Srinath and I covered in some of our earlier episodes in terms of how people are going out of the way to schedule everything to make sure that they get the player availability for all their games as well. And whole bunch of sacrifices are actually made, even in terms of the 50 over format as such. Just having MLC in the same timeline as 100, one, there's a huge disservice. Two, it just doesn't make sense. It's getting cannibalized. Obviously, if I'm an owner where I have stake with multiple leagues, that's a big red flag. That's a big red flag, right? Because I'm going to split and I'm going to cannibalize some of my resources. And again, we spoke about this in some of the episodes. They're going to start bringing in a whole umbrella team from an analytics standpoint, from a resourcing standpoint. from a whole investment standpoint, it just doesn't make sense for any investor to come in and see two
Absolutely.
overlapping tournaments, right? Because at the end of the day, everything's going to streamline better. So that's not a head scratcher, Srinath. That's like I'm going to pull my hair out of my head
Yeah.
if I'm an
Well,
owner.
I mean, that is, if you're an owner, yes, but if you're an ECB, you don't control that. The MLC is a separate entity. But
Exactly.
the head scratcher to me here is the fact that ECB still owns and runs the Vitality Blast, which is cannibalizing the 100, because all the counties have a team in the Vitality Blast T20 League, which happens around exactly the same time in the English summer, which is when most things can happen. Which
Exactly.
I I don't know, like, if you're trying to build one product, why would you want to like split up people and saturate the content, or even cannibalize your own product by serving up 120 format and 100 format? I'm not sure what they're actually trying to do here.
Yeah, I think this is the most critical point, right? I really don't understand the strategy of straddling between 120 versus 100. And Richard Gold made a very, very, I wouldn't say bold statement. He kind of reiterated that 100 is the future. 100 is going to get better and bigger, bigger and better. Again, there is investments from Sky Sports. There is push in the direction of selling it, and there's a bunch of things that are happening. What is your overall strategy when it comes to having 120 versus 100? Everything that they do, again, at the end of the day, the counties are clutching straws in terms of investing in either one of them because they're already resource constrained in terms of money. If I'm a
Yeah.
county, I'm also thinking about, oh my God, should I put money behind 100 or should I focus on the Vitality Blast as well? Again, begs a question, Srinath, probably another episode for us, but
So this is on the 18th of July. Again, a whole bunch of, I mean, for lack of a better word here, cold water thrown on the, targets that the
looking more
ECB
like
set out.
hot water.
So on the 22nd of, after the fact that the interest from these IPL owners, with clearly laying out all their issues that we just spoke about, on the 22nd of July, 4 days later, the ECB bizarrely reaches out to a bunch of NFL owners. Them, according to their own reporting, they sent them a document and video to explain what cricket is, and then saying, do they want to invest in a team in the 100 league that they're planning to sell teams in. I don't know. This to me, my God, seems like such a desperate move to drum up interest from, of course, another set of wealthy folks who own
Investors,
teams
yeah.
and understand the business model. Almost a way to increase competition so that the Indian IPL owners don't have the final say on reducing the prices. They were going to go out and get more competition to increase, which again is maybe what someone looking to sell certain bit of franchises would do. But to me, this felt like a bit of a desperate move when you reach out and to people who don't know, understand cricket, explaining the rules of cricket and immediately asking them whether they want to buy a franchise. I'm not sure what exactly was going on here.
Srinath, my perspective is a little more half glass empty, right? I think I think repeatedly from Feb to June, July, they've had cold water thrown at them by the Indian investors, and probably this might be like a Hail Mary move to say, like, you know what, let's not be overly dependent on Indian Premier League owners, team owners. Probably let's pitch it to other owners, because that, from what we have read and from what we have heard, we've had bunch of people from NFL and NHL kind of now show interest, or like being drummed up for interest with, like, Abraham Glazer, Tampa Bay owner slash Manchester United owner. We also have Ryan Reynolds coming in, the master marketer, who's also after the amazing Wrexham investment being thrown into the mix. We also had Tom Brady, who actually
Birmingham Spirit,
coming
yeah.
into, yeah, he actually came and saw a bunch of matches that were happening as well. So again, this definitely, my perspective, I feel like it's more of, hey, can we see if we can get a lot more interest from other wealthy investors and see how we can straddle. Imagine like you're going and explaining the whole sport and immediately asking them buy
It was on the 22nd of July, and then just a couple of days later, my guess is based on the reporting, Richard Gould comes out and says that there's certainly the opportunity for investors to potentially own the 100% ownership of the 100 teams. It depends on the capabilities that they bring, both in terms of finance and operational deliveries. Those opportunities do exist.
Wow.
I mean, I'm not sure if any of these NFL owners even responded to the email or watched the video of what cricket is that was sent to them. Because just a couple of days later, Richard Gould just saying that, yeah, 100% ownership is now possible. Please, reach out to us. You IPL owners, we're now open for business compared to where we were earlier. And
Srinath,
right, let me just
yeah,
finish
sure,
the
sure.
part of the story. A week and a half, couple of weeks later, on the September 6th, we're recording on the September 8th. On the September 6th, another shoe fell here, where basically they said, even if you don't own the majority, even if you own only 49% of a team, you still will have the ability to rename the team to whatever it is that you want. So I want to just go back to the first question that you asked me, Samba, on, do we know if any of the county cricket teams are actually in any desperate need of money? This move tells me that yes, they are really absolutely desperate for money. And there's almost a bit of capitulation happening from ECB's side, where they're doing anything now to retain and being able to successfully sell all 8 teams for reasonable amount of money. I'm still waiting to see what that is going to be, but I'm not sure if it's going to be anywhere near the target that they set for themselves with the 500 million goal that they started with. Given all what we've seen and the way that this process has gone, negotiation has been way stronger from the Indian IPL owner standpoint as compared to ECB standpoint. What do you think, Samba?
So I love the way that you said another shoe kind of fell off, but I think you were very kind from that aspect. From my perspective, shoes came off, I think socks came off, pants have come off. I think they're standing with the undies, but again, but I really felt like, again, the timeline from where we started, 30% to 49% to almost 100%, I think really shows desperation. I think desperation is one kind of a word. The second one, I think lack of strategy as well. I think they are not very clear in terms of where they want to lean in. Should they like probably take an iron fist in terms of say like, hey, you know what, this is what we're going to do. Bunch of things are like up in the air, and definitely, from what I understand, the IPL owners are like wielding a stronger hand in
Playing
front of
hardball.
ECB than, yeah, definitely, definitely. I think they have all the questions to ask, but again, they have not spoken about the amount of losses that ACB has fronted in the last 2 years, putting 100 in front of people, right? I think report says by Fanos Hira that it's 9 million quid loss. But if we include the payouts, that stands at a staggering 37.1 million quid. So they're already on the red. There's another surmounting losses from a county standpoint. From a, numbers doesn't stack up to what they were portraying. So that is one big question. I think shoes and socks coming off, strategy coming out in the loss. I think the numbers are not helping them to paint a right kind of a picture. And I really believe that is this the format that ECB, or like as what Richard Gould mentioned, is this the future, right? When there are so many odds that are stacked against them. I think that is one of the fundamental questions that kind of comes into my head. While it cannibalizes another format, is this the format that we are looking to kind of grow when it's only ECB that's pushing
Yeah.
100, and it's not, if
No,
this
no,
format is
you're
not
right.
adopted
I think
widely?
this has been discussed briefly. I think within the ECB itself, there is some talk that potentially after the 2028 season, this could also become a T20 league as opposed to the 100, with the name being 100, but becoming a T20 kind of format. But that's not been finalized, but they can't make any changes until 2028 because that's already been agreed upon and contracted. But yeah, to me, like this is fascinating. It's not the end of the road here. It is just beginning. September is the time frame that the actual tenders have started. We started this discussion by saying that CVC has now, submitted an actual tender to buy a team. We don't know which team it is. We don't know what the final amounts are. All of these details are going to be coming out over the next few weeks here. I'm super keen to see what's going to happen over the next couple of months. Who buys what teams? What is the total amount they end up buying? ECB ends up making. At the end of the day, I want to see some of these counties being able to continue to operate because, I mean, the same way that we want grassroots cricket in India or anywhere else in the world to, thrive, we want that to thrive in England as well. But it should make sense financially. I think this process that's going on right now is going to set the right market price for all of these franchises. Clearly the two London franchises are going to probably bag a big prize, and the rest of them are going to be like in a left behind the rest of the six franchises. But super interesting to see how the story evolves over the next few weeks, and probably when that happens, we'll do another episode to kind of like wrap this up. Thank you for listening to Conversation with Cow Corner. Please go subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts.